Well, hello. I'm Craig Dillon, your observationist. This is episode 4. The 2026 Senate elections are coming up, and I am predicting upsets in Louisiana and Florida. I predict that they are going blue. And that's what I think is going to happen. Cook and Let's Talk Elections, Silver, none of them are showing this in their analysis. But that's because the approach they take is a traditional approach and is not very adaptive to new situations. Like the Louisiana one, for instance, because of changes down in Louisiana, it makes a Democratic election for senator almost guaranteed. And yet they're not picking up on that. First, let me show you how I see the whole thing playing out. It's very different than what's being shown now, but my analysis is different. I'm using a different approach than what you'll see elsewhere. I'll go over my approach, and then you can decide for yourself whether or not my approach is correct or not. Okay, and that's not what I want to have to be showing there. Hold on. There we go. This is my prediction for the Senate race in 2026. I was predicting 56 until about a week ago. Now I'm predicting 58. That is a bit of a stretch. I have probably about a 50-50 confidence level in 58. My confidence level for 56 is about 90%. I feel very confident we're going to hit 56 Democratic Senate seats at the end of the year in 2026. I'm going to have probably another video where I go through all of the states to some depth. Right now, I just want to talk about two, Florida and Louisiana. These two are now given by most. Like, for instance, if I go here and I hit reset map, there you see in 270 elections, they have Florida as being, so solid red, and Texas as, really, really leaning strongly to red. And in my analysis, Louisiana and Florida are almost certainly going to go blue. And let me reset this. Yeah, Kentucky is another surprise that most people aren't picking up on yet. Okay, well, let's talk about Louisiana and Florida. Not sure which one to choose first. Let's do Louisiana. And the reason why I want to talk about Louisiana is because this state here has gone through a change in its laws on how elections are done that virtually guarantees a Democratic win. Okay, I'm back. The thing that you have to look at when you're listening to prognosticators like myself or anybody else, is you have to understand what is their process, and does that process apply? Right now, I don't think that the normal process of looking at polls applies to Louisiana, and the reason why is because the way they changed how their elections are done. They went from what's called an open primary system to a closed primary system. Now, let me explain what that means. In an open primary system, a person goes to the polls, selects the ballot that they want, either a Democrat or a Republican ballot, and they make their selection. And that voter could be anybody, as long as they're registered, right? They could be of any political stripe. That's called an open primary system. And many states have that, but some states have what's called a closed primary system. Now, an open primary favors people who tend towards the center, that are moderates. And the reason why that is because there are always three voting groups in every election. There are the Democrats, the Republicans, and then there are the independents. And in an open primary system, the independents get to vote. And so therefore, they can impact those elections. Now in Louisiana, Cassidy is their current senator, and he was elected using an open primary system. And so therefore, he tends to be a bit more moderate. He has actually opposed Trump from time to time. He actually, back in 2020, back in the first go around with Trump, he actually voted for his impeachment, as I recall, something like that. He's voted against Trump a number of times, and that's why Trump hates the guy. Anyway, so what's going on is in Louisiana, they went to a closed primary system. Okay, a closed primary system. And in a closed primary system, only Republicans get to vote in a Republican primary. And only Democrats vote in a Democrat primary. So independents are kind of shut out. Now, Julia Lutlow is the one primarying Cassidy, and she is endorsed by Trump. And she got an endorsement just a week ago or so. Not long ago, but she's endorsed by Trump, and Trump has made his displeasure of Cassidy very apparent. So all the Republican voters know that Trump doesn't like Cassidy. So Cassidy, his chance of getting nominated, getting the primary selection is virtually nil. His ability to survive that'll require a miracle of some kind for him to win that. So he's history. Now we have Julia Lutlow is going to be the nominee. And this is where it kind of gets to be guaranteed. She is not just merely Republican, not just merely MAGA, she is really closely tied to Donald Trump. And this election coming up in 2026 is a very unusual election in the sense that it's becoming on almost every level, even at a local level, somebody running for dog catcher. It's becoming a plebiscite on Trump, and any Republicans now are being tied to Trump. They're going to have a hard time winning any elections, come November. But anyway. So he is, his blessing of Julia Lutlow is really almost like a curse. Now we got to look at something else. There are polls, if you look around, there are polls that say that independents in the United States are breaking to the Democrats right now. Something like 75% of independents now are opposed Trump and lean Democrat. Now, remember what I said is that every election has those three groups, Republicans, Democrats, and independents. So most elections in the United States are really determined by the independents. If a Democratic candidate wins most of the independents, he'll get elected. If a Republican wins most of the independents, then he'll get elected. It's the independents are the ones in between because they're willing to vote one way one election and the other way in another election. They're the ones that really determine who we have in office. So what's going to happen now in come November is we're going to have a very MAGA-oriented, right-wing, Trump-supporting senator or Senate candidate against a Democrat. And the independents are going to probably vote for him or her. And obviously the Democrats are going to come in. So those two that factor alone indicates to me that Julia Lutlow's chances of winning and having a Republican senator from Louisiana pretty low. Then there's another thing that's going on, and we're seeing it daily now with ICE going around killing people and terrorizing people and injuring people and wounding them with gunfire. That is having a horrible effect on Republicans in this country now. They are in deep trouble. And Trump, he doesn't admit the mistakes. He's not backing down on that. He is he's really he's really doubling down on all that. And so I don't know. I think that's another factor. It's going to increase Democratic turnout and even independent turnout, and it's going to make for a very sound shellacking of Miss Julia Lutlow. So that's why I predict Louisiana going Democrat. Now let's look at Florida. Okay, what's going on with Florida? Florida is really interesting. Anyway, Florida is really interesting because it's a unique state in some ways. I don't know if you've ever been to Florida. Florida is very heavily into tourism. It's got of course we all know Disney World, but Universal Studios. They've got Miami Beach down there. So it's very heavily tourism based. And Donald Trump has done his damnedest to kill tourism. First, he has his insulting, his verbal attacks and threats on Canada. So the Canadian snowbirds are not going down there, and they're taking billions of dollars that they spend down there every year. They're taking that away, and then so that's really hurting Florida bad, real bad. The other thing that's going on is Trump has then put up this $250 added visa fee. So now, even when people do come to the United States, they have to pay that additional fee. So that is going to dissuade a lot of people from coming to the United States, and then of course that means Florida. The other thing, though, is that the State Department is really slowing down visa processing. So now the typical wait for a visa in most countries is like a year, 2 years, 3 years in some cases, I've read. So, by the way, that's another reason why the Miami is one of the cities for the FIFA World Soccer Cup, and people can't get into the country, so they can't go to it. So there's going to be lots of empty seats in the FIFA World Cup games in the United States this year. The ones in Canada and Mexico are going to be totally filled up. Those games are going to go well. But the ones here in the United States, they're going to be deserted. And so Florida's being hit bad. But one of the two things I just mentioned are not the worst of it. if you're watching, last month there was an election for mayor in Miami. And Miami has been a strange city for a number of decades now, in the sense that most cities in the United States are Democrat, by far the majority of them. And especially the large cities. The larger a city is, the more likely you're going to have Democratic mayors. Not in Florida. Miami was very much, Miami was a red city. The Republicans dominated it. They dominated it for a very big reason, and a reason unique to Florida, and that is that the Cuban Americans in Florida voted Republicans. They were not like other Latinos in the United States, such as the Mexicans or the Bolivians or the Colombians or Venezuelans, who come in here and typically vote Democrat, or at least lean Democrat. No, the Republicans, the Cuban Americans in Florida vote very, very heavily to the Republicans. At least they did. Because here's what happened in Miami. In December, they had an election there, and a Democrat was elected. And that election for the Democrat was like she won like, I think it was like 70%, 65, 70%. And normally it's the other way around. There was like a 60 to 70% swing to the Democrats in the Miami election. I mean, that's incredible. It goes from a typical blowout for the Republicans, went to a blowout for the Democrats in Miami. Why did that happen? Well, it happened because of ICE. The Cuban Americans, they came over, because of Fidel Castro. They came over in the early 60s and so forth. And they viewed themselves as super loyal Americans. And they supported the Republicans. You know why they support Republicans? Because they got pissed at the Democrats because John F. Kennedy called off the Bay of Pigs. And Bay of Pigs was supposedly, that was going to be their return invasion into Cuba to kick Fidel Castro out. And Kennedy called that off. And so the Republicans, so the Cuban Americans that were here, they just got totally pissed. And they've been holding that grudge against Democrats all the way until now. So what happened? Well, ICE came in. And they started abusing them, intimidating them, roughing them up. And last summer, they took away a 75-year-old Cuban American who'd come over in 1965, loyal American, highly respected in the Cuban American community. He was his name was Isidro Perez, Isidro Perez. Look it up. It's an interesting story. He was put into custody. He was denied his medication, and he died. Cuban Americans who value family and their elders highly, this was horrible. It was absolutely horrible. To them, it was a betrayal. It's not that they disagree with Republicans anymore. No, they felt betrayed by the Republicans. And then as they are being constantly, to this day, being intimidated, being round up, being detained for no good reason, even though they're American citizens, and even though they're very loyal Americans, and even though they're loyal Republicans. If you study politics, the politics of Florida, you'll find that Florida is a red state mostly because of the Cuban Americans. They're the ones that make that margin that keep on giving the Republicans victories year after year after year after year. Well, now they have now become Democrats. And the result was seen in Miami when we had a 60 or 70 point swing from the Republicans to the Democrats. That's huge. Then you pile on that the tourism, the loss of jobs. Now, a lot of times Republicans say, "Well, wait a minute, the Canadians and international tourists, they can be, they're being replaced by by domestic tourism." That doesn't work like that. When an American goes down to Florida, they're typically barely making it down there. They're going in their 12, 15-year-old car, staying at Motel 6, and eating at Burger King. Foreign tourists comes in. That's a big event for them. They've been saving for that American trip for years, maybe. They come in, they stay at good hotels, they go out to good restaurants, they go to the stores and buy, expensive stuff to take home. So they will typically spend, almost an order of magnitude more than a typical American going to Florida. Okay? And it's having a huge impact on Florida. The Canadian snowbirds, by the way, a lot of them are selling their properties down there. That they're adding to the property crash in Florida. Selling their condos, selling their homes, and they are never coming back. So even when Trump goes away and everything's all hunky-dory, those people are not coming back. We want to get other Canadians down there. There's going to be other Canadians. It won't be those Canadians. But Canadians are severely pissed off with our country. And that's affecting some other states as well, which we'll talk about another time. But Ashley Moody also has a problem in that she is heavily endorsed by Trump. She was endorsed by Trump in 2021 when she was running for state's attorney. And she's been endorsed by Trump for her Senate run now. By the way, if you don't know who Ashley Moody is, she was not elected to be senator, actually. She was appointed because remember, Marco Rubio was the senator from Florida, and Trump chose him to be the Secretary of State. So Marco Rubio is now in the Trump administration. And so DeSantis, the Republican governor of Florida, appointed Ashley Moody as senator, and probably because she is so well liked by Trump. So that's another thing. And in this coming election, the closer you are to Trump, the less likely you are to be elected. Trump is going to become any endorsement by Trump is going to be a kiss of death. And Ashley Moody is very, very strongly tied to Trump. She very much strongly supports ICE and their actions in Florida, including alligator Alcatraz. I don't know if you heard of that. They built a new detention facility in the Everglades, in the swamp there, and it's barely livable. It's not healthy at all, and there's been a number of deaths there, and it's called alligator Alcatraz, and that's another reason why I think she's not going to be elected, because she's associated with that, she's affiliated with that, she supports it. Good stuff. I think that's another reason why I think that she is dead on arrival. I don't think she has a ghost of a chance of winning in Florida. I could be wrong. These are my analyses. Have I been wrong in the past? Absolutely. I had no idea that Trump could win twice. I'm sorry. My mind is still having a hard time getting around that one. But there you go. So my logic doesn't always win. But in this one here, I explained to you my logic and how I came to my conclusions. What do you think? I would like to know that. Anyway, I'm going to be signing off now, and so I hope you enjoyed my little analysis.